Hey guys, this is Wes with Fantasy Smack Talk. Football season is finally almost here, but the best part of that, of course, is the chance to win some money on FanDuel every Sunday. My favorite tournament each week is the NFL Sunday Million, so we're going to be talking about the best pivot plays for that tournament and for the other big GPPs on FanDuel. Of course, in a tournament like that, you're not going to win by throwing a bunch of chalk on the wall. You got to be different. You got to find outliers, and you got to find value. So we're going to be talking about my picks and also who I think the chalk will be this week. Before we get into that though, if you're thinking about FanDuel, if you've ever thought about FanDuel, now is the perfect time to sign up. This time of year is the perfect time to sign up. Just log on to www.fanduel.com/FST, deposit $10. You'll get a free entry into the Sunday Million. Winner's taking home $1 million. I think in that one they're paying out like $4 million. So it's a great opportunity to get a free shot at that. And then another cool thing we got going with FanDuel this year are some private 75-person $5 tournaments each week. Myself and all the experts at FST will be participating against y'all. It'll pay out just like a normal $5 tournament on FanDuel would. And the winner, in addition to his winnings or her winnings, will take home a cool shirt. Let everybody know that you beat us, and we'll help you smack talk some of your friends and league mates on social media too, if you're interested. So getting into week one, again, we're looking to identify chalk before we do anything else. And at quarterback, I'm thinking that Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota will be the chalk plays this week. Carr's priced at $7,700 and Mariota at $7,800. They're going against each other in a game that Vegas projects to be close, and more importantly, the highest scoring total game on Sunday. So a lot of people look at those lines, as well they should, because Vegas is smart, they know what they're doing, but you're not the only one looking at those lines. And when you see a game with a huge point total and a close spread, those guys are going to get a lot of love in these tournaments. And in a tournament, again, with 600,000 plus people, you're not going to win any kind of money by doing what everybody else does. So in week one at quarterback, I'm looking at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going against the Chicago Bears, and he's $8,500. So he's the highest priced quarterback on Sunday, which I think is going to suppress his value or his ownership and increase his value. Chicago wasn't very good at anything last year, but they gave up the 7th fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. I think a big reason for that, obviously, is just game flow. Teams a lot of times ran up the score early against them or built up big leads and didn't have to throw the ball. So I think Chicago will be able to keep this game close through 3 quarters. I think that'll give Matt Ryan the chance to pad his stats a little bit and get up to that value at $8,500, and I don't think he'll blow a lead in the 4th quarter this time. Another guy I like at quarterback is Carson Palmer. In this matchup, I think a few years ago Carson Palmer would have been a chalk play going against a Detroit team that was really bad last year and is no better this year, especially against a quarterback and wide receiver positions. But Palmer's 37 now. Passing game isn't what it used to be. Questions about John Brown. Fitzgerald's a year older, and despite all of that, I think he's got a chance to really hit value here at $7,300 this week, and could be a good play that flies under the radar with a lot of people. Running back, I'm looking at chalk to be David Johnson primarily. Johnson's obviously a consensus top player in fantasy. He's going off the drafts at number 1 going off the board at number 1 in a lot of drafts, particularly in standard and half-point PPR, which FanDuel is. So a lot of times in these big tournaments, people are willing to pay up anywhere. It's at running back and wide receiver, but running back especially. And when you have David Johnson matching up with Detroit, it's a great play. It's just a lot to pay for him, and I think a lot of people are going to be doing that, so we got to find something else. And Jacquizz Rodgers, I also think, will have very high ownership. Only $6,700, and filling in for suspended Doug Martin. A lot of times people think they're cute and finding backup running backs, especially in a good matchup like Tampa has against Miami. But a lot of people are going to notice that, and he's probably going to have ownership rates well over 20%. Guy I'm looking at running back is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is $9,300 on FanDuel, so only $100 lower than David Johnson, which I think will put some people off from him. But he's got a great matchup too against the Browns. Coming off a holdout all summer, he's got a lot to prove. Pittsburgh should win this game easily, and they're going to need Bell to run the ball and really put the game away. But I don't love Bell this season in season log formats because of that holdout, but I think coming here in week 1, he'll be healthy. And again, he'll have a lot to prove, but only $100 lower than David Johnson. I think a lot of people are going to find a way to justify spending that extra 100 on David Johnson and passing on a guy that no one has seen basically all preseason. Carlos Hyde also at running back, a good pivot play, a good value at 6,800. I think his ownership rates will be suppressed because of his matchup against a Carolina team that defends the run well. But Carlos Hyde, we weren't even sure where he was going to be come July or early August. Didn't know if he was going to make this team or be playing somewhere else. But he's shown to really fit into Kyle Shanahan's system. He's shown the ability to catch the ball in the preseason, and if they can continue working him in creative ways, he should be able to overcome that tough matchup, and you should have a player that not a lot of people in this tournament are on. Wide receiver, I think the chalk here are going to be the two best wide receivers in the game. He's the two best healthy wide receivers in the game, and Antonio Brown and Julio Jones. Antonio Brown, 9,100 going against Cleveland, and Julio Jones, 9,000 going against the Bears. Again, these are great matchups for both of these teams, the Steelers and the Falcons. People are going to find a way to find value at other positions and justify spending up for one of these guys. I think both of them will have ownership rates well over 25%. So my top pivot, my favorite play is Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant at 7,800, who got absolutely shut down by Janoris Jenkins last year twice. Big part of the reason why Dallas couldn't handle the Giants the way they could handle basically every other team they faced until they lost to the Packers in the playoffs. But Dez and Jenkins have a history, and Dez has a lot to prove. Dez is healthy, and he has shown an improved rapport with Dak, I think, going back to the spring, and even last year that started to show. But with the healthy Dez, and if Dak can take a step forward, I think they'll both have big years. But I think this is a good time for that big year to start, just based on the fact that Dez can't let Janoris Jenkins show him up again. So at 7,800, again, good value. Also at wide receiver, I like AJ Green. Green's a guy that kind of takes a back seat to Beckham and particularly Antonio Brown and Julio Jones. But he's right up there as one of the best receivers in the game. I think was averaging more fantasy points per game last year until he got hurt. But Green is 8,400 this week, so a little bit lower than those elite level guys, and has a matchup against the Ravens. So that should suppress his ownership. Their defense, I think, has improved over last year, and last year it wasn't bad either. So people will see that and be scared away. People will pay up for an elite guy, a perceived elite guy in Brown or Jones. But AJ Green has shown the ability to really outperform his matchups, be matchup proof essentially, and can find the end zone a couple times against any team. So again, at 8,400 on FanDuel, I like AJ Green. Finally, we're going to move to tight end. I think chalk's going to be Jordan Reed, and especially Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham's a great play this weekend, only 6,200, and going against Green Bay that defended tight end very poorly last year. I don't think they improved much. So he's probably the top play of the week at tight end, but 35% ownership or more, I would not be surprised to see. And then you got Jordan Reed, again, at 7,100. Jordan Reed can score 2 touchdowns against anyone. He's obviously Kirk Cousins' favorite target, and he's healthy now, so people are going to be looking at him. My guy is Zach Ertz. I think Zach Ertz's ownership will still be around 15, roughly. But he's only 5,900, and he's got a good matchup against Washington, a team that he can score against. Him and quarterback Carson Wentz are establishing a great rapport. And in half-point PPR on FanDuel, Ertz will probably lead the team in targets and catches to compete with Jeffrey there. But with Jordan Matthews gone, the situation for Ertz won't be that much different this year. And he makes a good play, even if he's not the lowest owned guy. Another guy I'm looking at tight end is Jason Witten. Jason Witten, ownership won't be over 10%, probably 8 or 7%. It's a coin flip. Most of the lower tier tight ends are in this tournament on Sunday, but if Dez does get shut down again, Jason Witten's the guy that Dak's going to turn to, especially in the red zone, especially without Zeke. So we have a guy who's an established 10-year veteran and has shown the ability to continue to produce year in and year out. So I don't think Sunday will be any exception, and I don't think many people will be on him. So at 5,400 with Jason Witten, you're looking at a great value. So those are the picks for the week. Next week we're going to go over the winning lineup. We'll do that every week, the winning lineup in the NFL FanDuel Sunday Million. Talk about where I missed and hopefully where I hit more often than not, and talk about some ownership trends. Hopefully we can learn something from those week in and week out. So y'all get on FanDuel, compete against me, compete against the other guys at FST. Hope to see you on FanDuel, and we'll be talking to you the rest of the year.